Welcome to the Wright Family Law Divorce Podcast with your host, Ellen Wright, family law attorney, divorce coach, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker, discussing all things divorce and helping you learn to keep the pain of separation from holding you back. And now, your host, Ellen Wright.
Welcome to episode 7 of the Wright Family Law Divorce Podcast. Today, I have with me my friend and client, Tifani Kotsiopoulas, who is a single mom from Everett. Her son, Michael, is 8. And we're going to be talking today about sort of the ongoing issues and obstacles and problems that a lot of single parents, mothers and fathers alike, face during the Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's season with their co-parent and coordinating holidays and all of the pressures that sort of come with the schedules and the expectations and the pressure that the holiday season brings. Tifani, thanks so much for coming on to the show today.
Thank you for having me and inviting me.
So in your world, it's just been sort of crazy from the beginning to the end. Now, I know you were with Michael's dad for about a year before you gave birth. And then after you had Michael, you guys stayed together for about a year and a half and you tried to make it work. Is that right? So when you guys were together and Michael was an infant, what did it look like during the holidays when you had this sort of toxic relationship, you were trying to make it work, you had an infant? What did it look like in the early years when you were sort of starting to figure this out, but you knew that your relationship was falling apart?
So Michael and I and his dad shared one Christmas together as a family, quote. And he was he was born in May, December. So he was a little bit over 6 months, maybe 7 months old. And Mike also had his other children. So he has 4, other children. So, my stepkids, Michael's older siblings. So, they'd come over and they'd celebrate as well with us. It was quiet. It was fine. It was awkward. But about a few weeks later, he ended up leaving and he was on the road because he ended up getting a new job and he was driving cross country. So, things were falling apart. It was kind of the beginning of the end at this point. So it was quiet. It was awkward. It wasn't as lovey-dovey as it was in a previous Christmas together. But, it was okay. It wasn't terrible, but it was quiet and but then going on, he never had a Christmas with him after that. He hadn't seen him till he was about 5.
So what did that mean for your schedule and your family? I mean, did you find it hard to sort of make plans on your end? Would he make last minute demands? I mean, as the years went on, when did you get to family court and when did you sort of figure it out?
That following, right before Michael turned 2, Mike and I had already broken up and I hadn't seen him or heard from him for a couple of years. And then we randomly ran into him and he wanted to spend some time with Michael. So I basically reintroduced Michael to his father. Michael was about 4.5 years old. So that Christmas, I think it was July, August. And then that Christmas, he got to spend the holiday with Mike and myself because I didn't let Michael go by himself with him because he was still a stranger at this point. I think he had just came over to my home with my family. He was just there to open gifts with my parents and Michael and my nephews come over every year, my brother and sister-in-law. So it was just, he came over and just celebrated with us. After that, Michael asked to go to his dad's. And I think the last 2 years, Michael spent Christmas. The year after he was with me and then he went with him after. But then the next 2 years after that, Michael spent it with his dad. And he actually even asked to take him for a week, which I was surprised because he's never taken him that long. And I said yes. And then last year, Michael asked his dad if he would take him again. And Mike said yes. And so he was with him, for a week last year as well for Christmas. So he got to spend Christmas Day 2 years in a row with him. as far as this year goes, we haven't discussed yet. I don't know if it's going to be another week or what we're going to do for Christmas. We haven't even discussed that yet.
Mm-hmm. So communication has been an ongoing issue with Mike, really, from the beginning. And
always.
Do you find it gets worse around the holidays?
No, it doesn't get worse during the holidays. It's just whatever. It doesn't matter.
Right. So in terms of Thanksgiving, what does your parenting plan allow for in terms of Thanksgiving and Christmas swap off? Because a lot of what we see in the family court between parents is you flip flop every year, like maybe 1 year, even years. Mom will take Thanksgiving, for example, or dad will take Christmas, and then they'll alternate, sort of flip flop year in, year out. And then they'll also sort of trade off New Year's. We have had, situations where you might have a Jewish family that celebrates Hanukkah, and those dates have to be divided up as well. So that, can present its own sort of conundrum. But have you had any static in terms of his family and demands, or it's pretty much been the status quo?
Yeah, no issues. We don't swap holidays or anything. Thanksgiving, this year, he just called him.
Okay.
He just called him, said Happy Thanksgiving. He doesn't usually take him on the holiday. He just kind of sticks to his schedule. So this year I noticed that Christmas is on a weekend, but it falls on to my weekend. And then New Year's Eve falls on his weekend. So what I'm projecting is that he'll be with me this year for Christmas. And then maybe that week, that once the weekend is over, maybe that week, Monday through that New Year's Eve weekend, he'll be with his father, because the trend is 1 week at Christmas. It's not in writing. It's just been, and Michael kind of it's sad because Michael's the one that says to him, can I stay with you for a week? It's not my doing, it's my son's doing.
Right.
And then Mike will listen to him and be like, oh yeah, he won't say no to him. And then that's how it's planned. Now, if I said to him, would you whatever, he probably wouldn't. I mean, so I just don't bother. I've given up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, your situation is sort of the reverse of what we often see in the family court situation. People are vying for and fighting over the Thanksgiving and the Christmas. And we've got people who sort of like, will even look at the schedule, 5-10 minutes. My pickup should have been at 4:00 and, he was here 5 minutes early. Or, sometimes if the parenting plan isn't written like completely explicitly, someone will sort of take advantage of the maybe ambiguity and try to like one up, you know what I mean? So when you have a co-parent that isn't really particularly interested, like Mike is during the holidays, how does Michael take that? Is it kind of like, well, is dad going to see me on Christmas? What are we going to do?
Michael gets upset over it. I mean, as he's getting older, it's becoming worse. I've noticed that his behavior has been, he's been acting out. And, when he was a baby and little, he was such a happy little boy, and he's still happy and he's silly and goofy. But, since COVID, I don't know. I think COVID affected all the kids, but like, I don't know if it's just first grade, second grade, third grade. I just don't know if I think it's part of like, part of growing up, just kind of their stage. But he's just more sad. Like he's always just, and he's sweet and he doesn't want to, I noticed that he'll say that he wants to go to his dad's for Christmas, but he'll say it, but he doesn't want to make me feel bad. Like he's looking out for me, and it makes me feel bad because I want him to be happy. I don't really care where he spends Christmas as long as he's happy. And then he also, and I don't mind because I had at this point I had spent every Christmas with him, so I didn't mind at all. But I just let him do whatever makes him happy. But I have noticed his behavior just declining, and we do therapy and all of those things, karate, and whatever I can to try and help mold like a little man and to be respectful and do all the things that he needs to do. And I try to keep him grounded and structured because kids need structure and they need a schedule. And I noticed that the thing that I kind of fall into is like, he'll go to dad's, and if I take away his iPad or if I take away the phone or a game, well, it's okay because he goes to dad's and then it's fine. He can just do it. And that's, whatever, pick your battles. But, I do notice that he gets upset. And sometimes when he comes home, he puts his head down and he waits for his father to leave. And once his father leaves, he cries, and he will never show that emotion, and he'll never speak that emotion to his dad. But I get the brunt of it. It comes to me.
Right. It's hard. I mean, there's no easy answers. There's no question about it, Now, with Christmas presents and gifts, it seems like as kids get older, their expectations just keep getting higher and higher and higher. I know my boys, they go to school, they see other kids have the latest and the greatest phones, and they want this,
right,
they want that. And on the one hand, you want your kids to have nice stuff, and you want to give them the things that, we didn't have as kids. You always wanted more for your child. And yet you have to balance that against, being spoiled in managing the constraints of a family budget. So like in my situation with my kid's dad, the boys might have their sights set on an expensive Christmas gift. So Rick makes less money than I do, which is fine. I don't mind paying extra and make it like a joint gift from both of us. You know what I mean? But 2 years ago, we had a situation where, Rick wanted to get my 9-year-old an electric scooter, but it wasn't like one of the electric scooters made for kids. It was an electric motor scooter that's meant for like a commuter who goes to work, who doesn't want to like a fuel expense, right? They want to go to the train or to work and, just avoid the expense of a car. And Tristan was 9. And I'm like, Rick, he's a child. He can't ride a motor scooter that goes almost 20 miles an hour. For an accident. And, I voiced my objections, all of this. And he was like, well, he can handle it. We'll get him a helmet and this and that. I'm like, you know what? A helmet is going to do nothing when he's creamed by a car in traffic riding his motor scooter. Like, we'll do this, I'm open to hearing your ideas, but this is something that we're not going to do. And it was expensive. It was like, what he wanted to get was like $800 or $900. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not contributing to this. This is hazardous. Never mind, Tifani, right? Like, you give it Christmas time, January, February, it's snowing and it's icy. Like, put 2 and 2 together. Like, this is a catastrophe waiting to happen. So I'm like, I'm not going to pay for this. Like, you're on your own. So he kind of got huffy and puffy about it. He was like, well, I'll just buy it myself. He couldn't afford it, but I don't know if he robbed Peter to pay Paul or what, but he somehow came up with the money to give Tristan this scooter. And I'm like, you know what, Rick, we're not doing this. I am not going to let him ride this. It's off limits. You want to play Russian roulette with him. On your parenting time, you can take him to a parking lot over at the school and do very gentle donuts while he's supervised. I'm not loose in the neighborhood. No, we're just not doing this. And, we had an argument about it. We went back and forth. We had external family members get involved. You're trying to ruin Christmas. I'm not trying to ruin Christmas. Okay. We have to do common sense here.
Right.
So that was like my sort of thing. But, he kind of held it against me. Like, you've got, deeper pockets than me. Why can't you just contribute? And I think there's a lot to be said for boundaries and, what you will and won't sort of agree to in terms of gifts. Now, I have other clients where, there's a legitimate dispute year in, year out, and almost like a contest or a competition about who can give the biggest gifts to induce, and this is more common with like teenagers into the holiday time, to sort of corrupt the parenting plan that's already been put in place as a court order, and that's another challenge as well. I know you had some budgetary constraints. You lost a job due to the pandemic and things are tight for you. How are you sort of managing, holiday gifting expectations with Michael this year?
No, I'm still working. I didn't lose my job. I'm working remotely from home.
All right. But I thought you said your hours got cut.
No, same hours, just remote. If anything, because I'm remote, I'm actually saving more money because I'm saving on gas, food, with my commute. I'm saving on childcare.
Good. That's awesome.
So if anything, I've actually made a few dollars back every month. So it's actually better, because I'm not coming home so late and trying to find someone to watch Michael, and I'm not driving and buying, snacks and coffee and whatever, everything's home.
Right.
So, and I'm in my own city, and, we're just home besides, our karate, but so it's good. So I'm saving on mileage and all of that. So that was great. I was saving a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Christmas this year, see, I encourage if Mike wants to go and get him something pricey, I don't mind. I encourage it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't step in the way as to what he wants to buy him, because he does. He's not cheap with him, which is good. It bothers me. I'll see like, okay, well, he got all his, I think about like all the things he would get his kids growing up. And I'm like, he better not be cheap with Michael, and I think that, but, so far he gets some good stuff, and I don't mind, I encourage it because it makes Michael happy, and at the end of the day, I just want Michael to be happy, and I want him to have that smile on his face, and I want him to have that dad in his life and have that moment with him. That to me is worth more than like a competition with Mike.
Right.
Have I felt that he wanted to I may have felt in the past that he may have wanted to one up me, but I don't care. I remember our first joint Christmas together. I bought Michael the iPad a few years ago. And I think at that point, maybe he felt one-upped. I wasn't trying to one-up him, but I just, I wanted to get him the iPad. There was a really good sale. It was before the Black Friday. It was awesome. And I got it. And, he doesn't have an iPad anymore. But the problem is, similar to your situation, is now we're not agreeing on something. So I don't like I can't stand Roblox. I think Roblox is toxic. I have noticed, and I think since they've been home and being remote from school, I've noticed this lazy side and this like more gaming, and this Roblox is just terrible, bad behavior, bad for your mind, just bad, bad, bad. And I can't take it away from him. And it interferes with our daily activities, with taking a shower or getting ready for karate or doing our homework or going to bed. And his attitude, his anger, everything, like every aspect, the talking back, like he's more aggressive. And I'll tell you, he got so annoyed one day months ago, and he picked it up and he tossed it. And I wasn't even mad. And I said, you know what? Problem solved. And then I felt bad because, his cousins and all the kids have their iPads or their iPhones.
Right.
And I had my old iPhone, my old 6S, mint condition, and I had it, and he wanted it. So I little by little let him use it, and I noticed again the behavior changing, and I'm like, I would take it away. So I took it away for good. So he hasn't had anything. And I'll tell you, in the past 3 months, since school started, he hasn't had a phone. He hasn't been able to mess around with anything. He has my old laptop that he watches YouTube or Netflix. That's it. And his behavior has changed, and he's different. He's better. Well, now the problem is that Mike told Michael that he's buying him an iPad for Christmas. So I'm already cringing, and I'm so, right. I was like taking a shower, and I was like aggravated. I'm like, oh, and I'm thinking of all the ways that I'm going to somehow lose the iPad. Like, where is it? It needs to get lost, or it needs to stay at his house, or how am I going to is he going to have the permissions on it? Because now he's buying it. So is he going to have his parental controls? Is it going to be hooked to his, Apple account? Like, you know what I mean? Because I have everything was synced. I could see who we text. I could do, all the stuff. So that's similar to what you're going through, because I don't believe that. I told Michael, maybe when you turn 9, we can talk about a phone, because I don't think that you can handle it. I don't think you're mature enough. And when I feel that you're ready and you're respecting mom and you do what I need you to do, then we can talk about having, those extra privileges, but we get those taken away if we can't do our responsibilities. So then dad comes in like hero, and he's like, oh, here you go. It's okay. Yeah. But then I have to deal with all the crap.
Right. Yeah. You're ruining Christmas, Tifani.
Yeah.
You're the Grinch.
I guess I'm the Grinch. Right. I'm the bad cop. I know. That's what it is.
Now, does Michael believe in Santa Claus or no?
He still does. He did make a couple of comments in the past year. I think he must have heard it from a friend, but I didn't say anything. I was just like, no, he's there. I talked to him. He knows he's watching you. I try to keep it. I try to keep the innocence.
Yeah. Now, but his older brothers and sisters with Mike, I mean, have they ruined it for him? I mean,
no, they're like adults, like they're teenagers. They play along because they're a lot older. I mean, maybe if they were only a few years apart, maybe they'd ruin it, but they're so much older that, they baby him and they go along with it.
Yeah, that's good. That's important to keep traditions alive, Yeah. So did you ask Michael or have a conversation with him about the iPad, like how to coordinate that, if that's his idea of the big expensive Christmas gift?
Not yet. I'm waiting. I plan to.
Yeah.
I plan to because I just, I don't talk to him much. And whenever I do get to talk, Michael's always present. I have to somehow maneuver a time where I can talk to him in private, but his schedule has changed right now where he's sleeping in the afternoons because he's working at night. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I have to somehow, or maybe I could just text him, but he's not responsive with text and it's frustrating. And it's, I feel like we need to have conversations like, what's your plan? What are you doing? But I also want to cool off and find the right words and have a good system. I want to sound, I don't want to sound like a Grinch.
It's hard. It's tough. There's never any easy answers, like I say, and it's especially tough this time of year, But how are your parents doing? Have they been pretty helpful in terms of, holiday planning and schedules and helping with childcare? No.
Not really. My parents are still working. They're not retired yet.
Yeah.
So, they're self-employed, they're older and my mom can't really handle Michael. Michael's behavior can get, crazy and it's very, I don't leave him, she'll do things where she'll pick him up from school for me, or she'll, bring him to school for me in the morning once in a while. I don't really ask for much anyway. If I have to step out, like she'll feed him, stuff like that. Like I don't leave them alone for very long, maybe an hour or two, but that's about it. And then she's gone in the afternoons because they're self-employed, but not so much. It's hard. I've never been able to leave to go do something where I would need her, to keep him for a few days or anything like that.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, thanks so much for coming on today. It was really great talking to you. Thanks for sharing sort of your background and your story and your insights. And we will see you soon. Take care.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us today. Remember, the Wright Family Law Divorce Podcast is not legal, financial, or tax advice, nor should it be construed as such. We recommend that you consult a qualified legal or tax professional before making any decisions about any of the topics discussed in our broadcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe. To catch all the latest from the Wright Family Law Group, sign up for our email list and newsletter on our website at wrightfamilylawgroup.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.